Hi everyone, welcome back to... Oh god, there we go. Sorry, that was good, wasn't it? Welcome back to my channel, True Crime with Jess Rose. Thank you to all my new subscribers and everyone who's commented or dropped a like. And I'd really appreciate it if you do like this story or any of the others you've watched, if you could subscribe, please. I really want to get to the point where I can do a live, and I need 1,000 subscribers to get there. So, yeah, if you just press the button, I'd really appreciate it. Yes, there's nothing wrong with the colour on my camera. It is my birthday, and there are two bigger balloons to my left, but I'm not putting them on camera because they're numbers and they say how old I am. So I've decided today I'm going to stop at 34. We're going to stop there for the foreseeable, I think. Maybe until I'm a grandmother, and then I might bring myself back up. But we're staying at 34, so yes, that's why there's balloons. I came down this morning, they were everywhere. It was really sweet, actually. So, yes, so I'm coming to you with a birthday story. It's not. It's my birthday. It's not a birthday story. Yeah, so thank you for joining me again. And as the title says, it's the Disturbing Jayme Closs Story. And the reason why it's disturbing is because the perpetrator in this story had no prior convictions, maybe a parking ticket, I think. He was just unassuming. There was no motive, none. It was no relation to the victim. It was just a really, really unusual case. And yeah, when I heard about it, I was like, I need to tell you. But it took me a while because if you remember my last story, I was coughing a lot. So I've been waiting for that cough to clear up, but it is still there. So I do apologise if it starts again. But I've had this story ready for ages and I just want to share it with you. So, okay, like I say, the disturbing story of Jayme Closs. The disturbing Jayme Closs story. Sorry, we know why I put them in them orders. Okay, so Jayme Closs, at this point in this story, she's 13. She's the only child of James and Denise Closs. I think James is 56, Denise is 46. And they're just a normal family. You know, Jamie's in middle school, I believe. They live in Barron, Wisconsin. Like I say, Jamie's 13. And it's just said that, you know, she had blonde hair, green eyes. She was just a pretty girl, just a very normal family. I'm not sure if they were middle class, but yeah, just a normal family. Now, living about 70 miles away was a lad called Jake Thomas Patterson. Now, Jake is 21. Quiet boy. Everyone says he was nice, he was kind, he was very unassuming, didn't like crowds or anything, but just a normal lad. Okay? It's just a lot of normality in such a crazy and chaotic story. Now, on his way to work one morning, Jake, he was sat in traffic. I think he worked at a cheesecake factory. So he's sat in traffic, and he's at a light, and there's a school bus that pulls up. Getting on this school bus is Jayme Closs. And she's obviously not aware. She's just getting on her school bus as normal. But in that moment, and he can't explain why, Jake decides he's going to kidnap Jayme. And that just puts the fear of God in me. Because you teach your children about the dangers of the internet. You teach your children about, obviously, stranger danger, not talking to strangers. You know, being aware of weirdos on the road. But to know that out there are people capable of having no relation to you whatsoever or your child, and just decide on a whim that that's the child they're going to take. It's mind-blowing to me. And it has been said on another place where I've looked, it does say that if this was a film, you probably wouldn't watch it because you'd be like, that's too far-fetched, doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But it's real. And that's why I had to share it with you, because it's just so frightening. So like I say, Jake's got no previous convictions whatsoever, bar a parking ticket, like I say. No motive, completely random. And he just decides he wants to take Jayme. So on October the 5th, 2018, after preparation, this was very premeditated. There was a lot of preparation that went into this. Jake shaved his head so he wouldn't get hairs or fibres in the face covering he was going to wear, head covering he was going to wear. He got a gun. He followed Jayme home so he could see where she lived. He staked it out. You know, there was a lot that went into this. And on October the 5th, 2018, Jake goes to the Closs house. But I think there was a lot going on. You know, they were up, you could hear the dog barking, you know, and decided this wasn't the right time. So 2 days later, on October the 7th, 2018, he goes back. And again, there was just something that wasn't the right time, he decided, so he leaves again. Now, on October the 15th, 2018, so a week after that, he decides that tonight is the night. He's going to get Jayme, and that's it. So he decides to pull up wearing like a black coat and a ski mask in his car, and it's about 12:53 a.m. So as you would imagine, Jayme's father, Denise are in bed, and Jayme happens to hear and see lights of the car, but hear the car pulling up, plus her dog starts barking, who sleeps on the end of her bed. So, you know, a bit unnerved by this, she runs into her parents' bedroom. James gets out of bed, and when he looks through his window, because of the ski mask and the black clothing, he just assumes it's the police. So he just says, can I see your badge? He doesn't open the door, but he just says, can I see your badge? And when there's nothing forthcoming, he looks through. You know, you get that glass in your door. He looks through there, at which point Jake raises his gun and shoots. And he shoots James straight in the face through the door. And James dies immediately, as far as I know. He's killed outright. Okay. So while this is going on, Denise, Jayme's mum, gets Jayme, gets her into the bathroom, barricades the door with, I think they've got a dresser there or something, so she barricades the door. She gets them both in the bath, and it said that she had her arms wrapped around Jayme. And I just can't imagine the terror these two girl and woman, mother and daughter, felt sitting in that bath, hearing the footsteps coming down the hallway, looking in each room where all the doors are actually open. So Jake realises no one's in those rooms. There's one door that's closed, and it's the bathroom. And at this point, Denise is on the phone to the police, and she's begging for help, you know. But Jake gets to the bathroom door, and obviously he can't open it, so he starts kicking the door in. And can you just imagine that terror? It's the stuff. It's like a horror film. It's the stuff of absolute nightmares. Just a random stranger to come into your house. You know, you've got the man of the house, you know, the protector of the house, if you like, dead. And all that's left is a mum trying to protect her daughter as best she can. Eventually he breaks the door halfway in the bathroom, gets in, And he actually says to Denise, he's brought in duct tape with him, and he says, I want you to tie Jayme's mouth. And she says no. So he drags Jayme out the bath. He actually puts the gun down. He wraps Jayme up with this duct tape, and then he picks the gun up and he shoots Denise and kills her. So at this point now, this poor 13-year-old girl who was asleep not 10 minutes beforehand has just witnessed her mum being shot. She's been dragged out by a complete stranger who's faceless. He's cut, his face is completely covered. On the way out the front door, she sees her dad dead at the front door, and she's then thrown in the trunk in Jake's boot. And it's said that the whole thing from beginning to end took just over 4 minutes. So if you're wondering, like, well, where were the police? They've got to have heard the distress. Why aren't they there? From beginning to end, it was 4 minutes. I mean, that's how planned out it was, how methodical it was. He knew what he was doing, how focused he was. He wanted Jayme, and no one was standing in his way. Nobody. Oh, and as he pulls out of the drive, he actually pulls over on the side of the road. And he pulls over on the side of the road to let the police past, who are rushing to the Closs home. Oh, and it said that Jayme heard the sirens while she was sat in the trunk. And then she heard them getting further and further away. Can you imagine? You can't, can you? So the police get to the home. They find the dad dead. They go through the home. They find Denise, obviously Jayme's mum, dead. And they realise quite quickly that there's a child missing. So they send out, obviously, alerts to everyone. We've got a kidnapper, we've got a murderer. Pretty soon they've got so many people involved. While this is happening, Jake takes Jayme to his house, 70 miles away, as I said, 110 kilometres, in Gordon, Wisconsin. So still in Wisconsin, just a different town. And when they get there, he gets her to change out of her pyjamas, put on, I believe, his sister's pyjamas. I don't think his sister lived there. I think this is just his home, but for some reason his sister's pyjamas were there. Gets her to put on them, and then he burns all the clothes that have been worn. He then puts Jayme under his bed, where he's put a pillow and a quilt, and he puts her under there, and then he barricades her in with boxes and weights and things to block up that section of his bed. And he goes to sleep. It's like whatever had been built up in him that told him, or I don't know what did it, but whatever it was, it's like he was relaxed now. He's got the girl he wanted, and he goes to sleep. I was like, oh my God. So a nationwide hunt was organised for Jayme, but slowly days turn into weeks, turn into months. So over that period of time, Jake didn't actually know what to do with Jayme. He'd seen on the news, like, he's obviously following the news. He can see that, they're starting to lose hope, and, there's no leads. There's no leads because there was no motive. There was no connection. There was nothing. He didn't live in the area. There was just, the police had nothing to go on. He'd left no fingerprints because obviously he'd made sure he had his gloves on, and, he'd made sure he's in and out very quickly. They were really struggling to find this girl, and obviously as time was going on, I would imagine that Jayme's losing hope. Jake's got quite cocky because not only does he think, well, they're not going to know it's me, he also knows that Jayme watched him not only kill her mum in front of her when they were walking out, she knows he killed her dad. So he knows that she knows what he's capable of. So he starts to kind of get, the reason I say cocky, it's like he didn't think she'd ever risk annoying him, so, or escaping or anything else. So he'd leave her under there for hours, sometimes days at a time. He'd just forget about her. He'd he'd forget to let her go to the bathroom. He'd forget to feed her. He just didn't know what to do with her. So eventually, as time went on, he'd let her come out. He'd let her play video games with him, and then put her back under the bed. Eventually, as time went on, he let her sleep on his bed while he slept on there. Now, it's said by both, I believe, Jayme and Jake, that he was never inappropriate with her sexually, which I was relieved in the sense of that. Imagine adding to everything she'd gone through, to add that aspect into it. It would just, I'm just relieved that wasn't an aspect of this kidnapping. He was never inappropriate with her in that way. So, like I say, he used to let her sleep on the bed with him, because he didn't know what to do with her. He'd done what he needed to do. He's still only 21, remember, so his brain's not quite, he hasn't thought of the consequences, much like a teenager. It's very much in the moment and not thinking ahead. And I believe that's kind of what's happened here. But when he'd have friends round, he'd just put her back under the bed. That's how kind of relaxed he was. He'd have people round to his house because he never thought he'd get caught. And I don't know what he was planning on doing with Jayme. Time was going. Like I say, we've gone through days, we've gone through weeks, we're now at months. And he's still got this 13-year-old girl in his house. He'd said that he doesn't leave the house very often, but he will nip out, to go to the shop. He will nip out now and again. Well, anyway, like I say, he's got a little bit more relaxed. So he kind of, he thinks he's okay. He thinks he's kind of home free. So on the 10th of January 2019, Jake decided to go to a job interview, and it said that on the application, he said he was trustworthy, he was he was a quick learner, the kind of things you'd see on an application. But what's shocking about it is he filled this out while he's got this young girl kidnapped that the whole country's looking for under his bed. It's just mind-boggling. So he goes to his interview, and when he leaves, Jayme, I don't know what triggered it, but she decided, I've had enough. This is it now. I've had enough. So she pushes her way out of the bed. Like I say, it was just weights and some boxes there, so she manages to push them out the way. She gets out quickly. She finds a pair of Jake's trainers. She puts them on. And she runs. And she gets out. She escapes 88 days after she was taken. Now, remember, she was taken on October the 15th, 2018. This is now January the 10th, 2019. But it is winter. It is Wisconsin. It is very cold. So as she's coming along the road, there's a local woman who's walking her dog, and she sees this young girl coming towards her, and she said she thought it was a bit odd because she had no coat on, she had no gloves on, no scarf, everyone's always really wrapped up around there, and she thought that was a bit odd. It's about 4 p.m. at this point, and the lady who spotted her is a lady by the name of Jeannie Nutter, and Jayme goes straight up to her and she says, I don't know where I am. My name's Jayme. Can you please help me? And purely through Jayme saying her name, and obviously Jayme's face has been everywhere for the past few months. Absolutely everywhere. Media, people putting out flight, everywhere. So this woman recognises her, And rather than bringing her back to her house, which I think would have been a bit of a walk, she goes straight to a neighbour's house, gets her in there, and they phone the police. And they basically say, we've got Jayme Closs. And the police were hesitant at first because given the amount of time that's gone by, no one had much hope of seeing Jayme again, especially after what happened to her parents. You know, they weren't holding out a lot of hope for this young girl coming home. And so when they realise, you know, it's her, the police rush out there, they get in. Jayme tells them, you know, what she can about Jake. She points out the house because it's only just down there. The police take her away and take her to the hospital, and they wait for Jake. Jake, at this point, had got home, seen Jayme had gone, and was now out in his car looking for her. And the police pull him over. As soon as he's pulled over, he doesn't argue. He doesn't try and kind of blag anything. He gets out of his car and he simply says, I did it. It's just crazy. So after Jayme has been checked and, you know, to see she's okay, and obviously we're not talking mentally here, we're just talking physically, she was released into the custody of her aunt, Jennifer Smith, and that was the next day. I mean, how surreal would that be for that girl? I mean, what a strong girl at 30. And the parent company of the store that Jayme's parents worked for, they'd actually raised a £25,000 reward. And because, in essence, Jayme had rescued herself, they awarded that to Jayme, which I just thought, it's just a side note of such a horrific story, but I just thought, it just kind of got me, that did. I just thought that's amazing. She rescued herself, you know. Now Jake straight away confessed to the murder of James. He obviously confessed to the murder of Denise. He confessed to the kidnapping of Jayme. He couldn't give a reason. There was no motive. There was no reasoning. He couldn't answer those questions because he didn't know himself. It was just shocking to everybody involved when it came out who this lad was. No one could believe it. You know, people knew him. They were just gobsmacked. There was people who'd been round his house when Jayme had been there who were like mind blown. It just rocked so many people. At least, you know, most of all, Jayme herself. I mean, now this is 2019 when she got out of the house. She escaped the house. It's only 2 years. So I think the most she'll be is 15. And obviously, I believe she's been kept out of the public eye, which, of course, I believe her aunt's fully protecting her that way. Now, I don't know if it's her dad's sister or her mum's sister, but either way, Jennifer herself has lost a sibling and, you know, an in-law, and you know, she's got this niece who has gone through 88 days of being kidnapped and being locked in a house, and, you know, who's seen her parents murdered. You know, it's just a lot that's gone on. Now, he was charged with 2 counts of first-degree intentional homicide and 1 count of kidnapping. I think there were some other smaller charges, but they're the main ones. And on May the 24th, 2019, because he pled, he pled guilty, didn't he? He pled guilty? Yes, he did. He pled guilty. That's what he was charged with. And he got 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole and 40 years for kidnapping. So Jake Patterson will never get out of prison. I don't think he ever should. And I say that because, my opinion, as everything I always voice in these videos are, but he can't say why he did what he did. He can't explain it. It's so shocking. And he was willing to murder whoever was in his way to get to Jayme. I just don't think someone like that, who, as far as I know, still can't give a reason for doing what he did. I think they're just safer kept locked up. I just don't think, how could you keep an eye on someone like that when you wouldn't know if they're looking at someone? Jayme was just so, she just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. She'd never met this. I know I've huffed a lot during this story, but I just don't know what to say, because it just goes against every story that I've told. It goes against every kind of perpetrator MO. They know them, the motive, they've done something, they're related. There's always some sort of connection, but this one, there was just nothing. It was just, like, say if it was a film, you'd turn it off. You'd be like, this doesn't make sense. So, okay, Jayme didn't have to appear in court, so they managed to keep her away from that, which was, obviously a blessing. And in August 2019, Jake was transferred to a prison in New Mexico. It does show, you can see footage online of he got into a fight with another inmate, because obviously we know how harming a child in any way goes down within a prison population. So, I'm assuming he can expect more of that over the years. So that was the last I know about Jake, and that was as of August 2019. With regards to Jayme, she continues to live with her aunt and uncle. And then maybe as she gets older, it said she might want to share, her side of the story. But as of now, she's still a minor. She's still a child. She's still got a lot to get through. It's going to be a very, very hard period in her life. And I just wish her all the luck in the world. I genuinely do. I just don't think she should let this man win. I'm saying man questionably, because those 21, he's reasoning, it's like a man-child. It just doesn't make sense. But he was a man. He was a grown man, and he kidnapped a child. So there's no kind of, oh, well, no, I don't mean that at all. But yeah, that was the Disturbing Jayme Closs Story. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe. I'd love to do a live for you all. I mean, these are unedited, but it'd be nice to be able to interact with you all as well as I'm doing a story. Or just drop any comments in and any stories you'd like me to look at. But yeah, I really appreciate you joining me today. And I will see you all soon. Thank you so much. And remember, I am 34 for the foreseeable future. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Thank you.